And I don't know if I said that in the making mayonnaise video or not, but making food from scratch is part of food security. And so today I'm going to bring you my version of making homemade bread. I just need to collect together the ingredients now. Now, first off, you have to start with proofing your yeast, they call it. 2 1/4 teaspoons is equivalent to one of those 8-gram packets of yeast. So I need to put in 4 1/2 teaspoons and a little bit of sugar. Put in a tablespoon of sugar. Four and a half teaspoons of yeast. This water is fairly warm, but not hot. So you just need about a cupful of water. I'll take the whisk and stir it a bit. By the time it gets everything else put together, it'll be ready. So I'll take 6 cups of all-purpose flour. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 6 cups of whole wheat flour. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. 1 cup of sugar. 1 cup. And this is not an exact science. A handful of sugar, of salt. Another good thing about making your own bread, you can experiment with taste. So I have some onion powder here. This is dry, so I'm going to put it in with the dry ingredients. If I was wanting a vanilla flavor or something like that, I'd mix it with the water. So I'm going to put in a handful of onion powder. That's an extra flavoring. You can put in nut powder or whatever kind of flavoring you want. Now I have to make sure onion powder sticks together into lumps. I have to feel through and make sure that there's no lumps there. Okay, so I have all the dry ingredients mixed together. And the next thing I'm going to do is take 2 eggs, so this dry mixture now feels quite fine. So with the 2 eggs and 1 cup of oil, now I'm going to mix that completely through, and when I'm done, this will add a grainy texture to it instead of the fine texture of flour. You need to turn the bowl every so often to make sure you're not missing some to either side. Just making sure I don't have any lumps, that everything is indeed just all a grainy texture instead of having a lump of oil or egg in one particular place. Now the yeast has risen quite well, so I can put that in this little depression I made in the center of the flour. I don't use 2 liters, it's about 3.5 pints, I suppose. Of course, I rinse out my thing I had my yeast in. The thing about the water is the amount of water you put in, it depends on how soft you want your bread. In the beginning though, you need to put in enough water so that you can make sure all the flour is well soaked all the way through. It's soft enough that you can put your fingers through it to feel for any lumps that might be left. And make sure there's no dry stuff being left on the bottom. Yeah, that's good. It's well mixed now, there's no lumps in it. I need to get enough dough off of one end so I can get some flour out. At this point now, you can do a couple of things, because I put in 6 cups of all-purpose and 6 cups of whole wheat, so I've got a 50% whole wheat mixture. I need to add enough flour to this now so that it's the right consistency to make my bread the way I want it to turn out. I can put in all-purpose flour, or I can put in all of whole wheat, or I can go back and forth, a handful of all-purpose and a handful of whole wheat to keep the 50%. Which today I think is what I'm going to do. At first you can't actually knead it because it's too soft, so you just sprinkle the flour over to make it dry on top, and I'm just pushing it down and pull it back like that. Sprinkle flour over the bowl and over the dough. And then with a bit of flour sprinkled on your hand, you can get a lot of that dough off of it. I once tried using gloves for this, and the gloves were sliding around, they were sliding off and twisting. It didn't work very well. So I just wash my hands before I start, and then go to it. Move that sugar bag out of the way, I guess. I've been well around, so before I add flour now, I need to knead it until it's getting sticky again, because otherwise you'll have extra flour and dry spots in your bread. Make sure I don't have extra dough stuck all around the sides of that. That'd be a waste of dough. Feels like I've got it the right texture already. Sometimes I get the water just right at first. Other times I have to add a little extra. When I do it, if I can pick it up like this and it not flow out very fast, and just flip it over, that's the right texture. 2 hands. When my mother did it, she liked to make her bread a little drier, and so she put in enough flour to pick it up with 1 hand, and it would stay in a firm ball. Now we're at that. I have to cover it and let it sit. This will take about a couple of hours. Might even take 3. It's dependent on your temperature. Right now it's 21 degrees here, so it should rise fairly well. At 18 degrees, I was having real trouble getting the dough to rise. It would take like 4 or 5 hours. So when you're doing this, you want your room temperature to be about 20 to 22 degrees Celsius. Your other option, if you didn't want to have your house that warm, you can turn on your oven and take the bread and set it over here like this. If you have an electric range, you got your oven running, sit your pan on top of the stove and cover it, and it'll rise quite well that way. So there, that was 20 minutes on the first section from beginning to clean up. Okay, so we're back. It is now 3 o'clock. I think that was about 2 hours, I'm not sure. I'll check the timestamps on the videos. I have 6 bread pans. And this is one place where a thick oil will come in handy. Either I use margarine, coconut oil might be good, anything that stays solid or semi-solid, I should say, at room temperature. I make sure I grease it up well because I don't want the bread sticking in there. You get a thin layer of residue from your bread stuck to your pans. It is frustrating, at least, to get off. I'm just using a piece of foil to wipe some margarine out of the container there and then to wipe it onto the bread pan. More is better than less in this case. If there is more than you actually need, it'll only serve to keep the crust of your bread soft. So there, they're all greased up. I want to get this grease off my hand here now. Take the cover off the bread dough. That there. Get a longer sharp knife. You'll get used to how much you actually need to take per bun. See, that was too much. And I roll it up into 3 buns per loaf. And you end up with something like that. Kind of feels to me like I got this bread made a little too stiff, a little too much flour compared to water ratio. The reason I dip it in the flour is just to keep it from sticking to my hands when I'm trying to roll this. You gotta roll it, keep rolling it underneath until you get a smooth top. Gotta turn on that burner for a reason. You'll see now in just a little bit. make bread in Newfoundland, you always have to have more dough left over than what you're going to use to make your bread with. Why? You gotta make toutons. Now, where did I put that? Put that over there and let those rise off. And I have this much dough left, which is enough to put and make 2 bread dough pancakes out of. Otherwise known as toutons. Not very much. I should have made a little more. I think I want more, but it is what it is now. This is all I have. Flip them over right away because now this side is greased up from the oil in the pan. And I can press them out a little more. Like so. Now hold on to a plate and put on your favorite pancake topping. The bread is ready to go in the oven. Now this is something else you'll have to experiment with. I have the oven preheated on 300 degrees and I will bake the bread for 30 minutes. But I have been in several places running several different ovens and I've had to bake the bread for different times and on different temperatures, whether that is the oven or the atmosphere of where you're living at the time, or a combination of both. I don't know. I'm going to set you down right here on the table now, and I'm going to put that bread in the oven. So, like I said, you experiment with it. Right now, You can take that 300 at 30 minutes if you want. And then if it's baked a little too much for your liking, you cut it down next time. If it's not baked enough, then you leave it in a little longer. It is 6:07. So 6:37 we'll be back up. 1.5 hours up. Take out the oven mitts. You see, it slides out nice and easy. That's why I put on so much of the margarine. Now I've got a little problem because cancel. I've gained some weight today, but for the purposes of this video, I gotta take you over here. I've got to cut and butter a piece of this bread. And since it's cut and buttered, then I have to eat it. They're hot. Now, let's zoom in on that. Doesn't that look delicious? Now, it is the best right out of the oven, but it's not the easiest to cut right out of the oven. You see, it has its pros and cons. So there, a beautiful, fresh slice of homemade bread. Delicious.